I was in a bad place. I was like depressed because my dream was crushed. Engineering berthing, there's about 40 of us, I think, in that
And
space.
engineering berthing smells like what?
Feet, ass, and nuts.
Feet, ass, and like
like
bad.
a lot of engine oil.
Like of all, like there's,
Dude.
As an officer on a ship, we sent one dude to Buds. The captain said he'll go to Buds in a year and 2 months when his replacement shows up. He was a SAR swimmer, right? And I remember just like, damn, like,
Yeah.
So understand, on a ship, they doing all that shit on purpose. They losing your record. They fucking letters sitting on the captain's desk for fucking 18 months. Like all of that is on purpose because they think you're going to a better job than the one you have,
Absolutely.
Which is the craziest shit in the world.
When I tell you I had a bad attitude about the Navy the first time, my attitude the second time when I'm on my second ship was exponentially worse. Although I had also like matured a bit too. So I was like more in the game, and A division doesn't suck nearly as bad as like main engineering. So the job wasn't nearly as bad. I was like professionally, I was doing, I had probably like a better rapport. I was, like a little more on point with kind of my duties, but internally I was like, fuck the Navy, man. Like, they just get me every turn they can get me. They get me, and they're making me. Gosh, dude,
this is fucking gold right now because you're telling it like I tell people it happens. Gold because I tell people this is how the Navy works, like to screw people, right? And they're trying to screw you at every turn to make sure that they get as much as they can out of you, whether you're complicit or not.
Yeah,
they drop you.
They dropped me.
And I imagine you go to X Division. How long are you in X Division?
Oh, shit. I was in X Div maybe about a month, I think.
And you were a machinist mate. So where did they send you?
They sent me to Norfolk, to the USS Nassau, LHA-4, after X Div. X Div was actually, I was in a bad place. I was like depressed because my dream was crushed. But it was a lot. We ended up doing like some support stuff for some of the SQT guys, and it was kind of fun.
And so let's talk about this a little bit, Joel. I want everybody to understand, man, this happened in about 4 hours. So let's just include Friday, 72 hours. You got sick because the water is full of poop. You got pneumonia. You didn't want to go to medical, which I'm going to tell you right now. If you had called me, I would have said, how is your breathing? You probably would have said not good. I would have said go to medical because they'll give you the Z-Pack. It'll fix the shit, right?
Right.
I just had a kid a couple classes ago. Same shit. Called me Saturday morning, having problems breathing. I said go to medical right now. Chest x-ray, pneumonia. Gave him a Z-Pack. He was in class Monday, Tuesday. He didn't have to do nothing. He just was in class. They could keep him in class. And then he was good by Wednesday. So, it's one of those deals, but dog, sometimes it's a slow process, but most of the time you fail something, you gone, right? Like you break your arm, you're gone. You fall off the slide for life, you're gone.
It was on, it was on me. I was just paranoid about medical. I was scared of getting rolled or dropped. And I was like, dude, if I'm not dying, I'm going to keep going. And just because I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know what the hell I had. It's just like, it feels like a fever. So I'm just going to sleep it off and then push through it. Ended up being something else. And it could, so it was just a foolish decision on my part, which I regretted, but it is what it is. So I got dropped. What they told me was because of the policy, then that was it. So I couldn't come back. Like I was never going to be on dive status. That was it. So I ended up getting orders and going to the ship. And again, the rationale was kind of humorous because it was like, now you're like more susceptible to heat injuries, so you're a liability. You're going to go work on the engine room on the steam plant.
Yeah, 120 all day.
Yeah, so I'm down there for the next 2 years steaming around an old freaking steamship from the 70s.
Okay, so Joel, let's talk about this check-in process because I tell guys, man, listen, man, when you go to that ship, it's a different animal. First day when you showed up with your little duffel bag and you walked up the brow and, request permission to come aboard, like they took you to a berthing. How many people were in your berthing?
The engineering berthing, there's about 40 of us, I think, in that space.
Engineering berthing smells like what?
Feet, ass, and nuts.
Feet, ass, and like
bad.
A lot
of engine oil.
Like of all, like there's the bosun's mates and the engine room. Them two group of folks, their berthing is going to smell the worst.
Engineering is just, it's dirty work.
And all right, let's talk about this then. You a big dude, 6'3".
Yeah.
How big was your rack?
It was big enough for me to lay down in. That's
Could you
about
stretch
it.
your feet out? Was your head and feet touching?
Not. I mean, if I just lay there, not really. Yeah, I was gonna have pretty much most of the time. I was gonna have one end touching something
Yep.
somewhere. But yeah, I really can't overemphasize like how hard that hit me though going to that ship, because my whole time in the Navy, except for like basic, like I'd gone straight from basic and A school right to buds, and so I was like, it's a very different kind of community. Mentally, I had checked out of like the big Navy fleet community way before I ever even got there. I was like, I'm not doing that. That's not like my crew. So then when I got there, it was even worse because when I got to the ship, it was in Portsmouth. It was in dry dock in the shipyards. So they're tearing. It was like it was like a, I don't know, man. It was a real
Yeah, and
downer. I just got on there. Everything's ripped up. It's freaking stinks and loud, and you know it's just a different kind of person in the fleet. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like it's a different
yep.
environment, and I was just so butthurt that that's where I was. I was like, God damn it, man! Like this is the one thing I didn't want to happen, and here I am, and I'm like
Did
stuck with it.
you
So
have to go mess crank immediately, or did they let you stay in the MM division, in the engine division for a while?
I was there for a few months before I went mess cranking because we were in the shipyards. There was like a lot of work, you know. So I was doing engineering stuff. I don't, as I recall, was we still? No, we were still in dry dock when I started mess cranking, but it was like right
Okay.
towards the end. So I did go mess cranking while we are still there, but yeah, I did that. That was, what was that? 4 months, I think, of mess
Normally
cranking,
four
something like
four to
that. three
six
or four
months.
months.
I broke it up in
Yeah,
my
yeah, I think it
division,
was.
man. I let them do 2 months, and then I would send somebody else, and
Hmm.
then I would get them back for 2 months. Because when I left them there for 6 months, man, they would come back so broken. Because you working 18-hour days
Yeah,
mess
that was
cranking,
depressing.
correct? Like,
You're working long days doing something that has nothing to do with your job, and it's just bitch work for the
yeah,
CSs.
yeah,
That's
like
it.
you're cutting potatoes,
You're
you're
not
peeling
even.
potatoes, or you're fucking making pizza
Yeah,
dough, or you're fucking,
yeah.
yeah. So
You're scrubbing out refrigerators
yep.
and stuff.
Doing. Did you
Yeah.
do
So
PMS on all the fucking fryers and all that shit? They have you doing PMS?
yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah, but it was that wasn't as bad as engineering. And main engineering is not a fun job. It was an old ship, and we were constantly undermanned. So I don't know if you know how it is. Like when you're steaming one of the old steamships, you're always. I ended up deploying on that ship. We did a med cruise in the Gulf, 7 months, and yeah, we're steaming around out there, and we were 6 and 6 watches pretty much the whole time. We had 6 and 6 with a workday a good part of the time, where you're basically on for like 18 hours a day. You're staying a watch for 12, and then you're doing maintenance and like painting shit.
So
So yeah, everything about it was just horribly depressing to me, like demoralizing, I should say, not depressing. It was demoralizing. I
and
freaking
so
hated
Joel, I
it.
was on USS Merrimack, which is I think it's an 800-pound steamship. No, 1,200 pound. Was
Mm-hmm.
yours 2,400
Yep,
pound? I mean, yours was
1200,
1,200. So ours was 1,200 pound
1200 pound.
steamship. I got smart and I did all my qualifications in port when we weren't fucking hot. But I mean, shit,
Yeah,
probably the 10 times I had to go down there and stand watch, and it was hot, man.
yeah.
Like
I,
the,
I gotta tell you my surface warfare story because that's funny. I'll
good,
circle back to that in
good.
a minute. Yeah. So, well,
What
yeah.
made it so crushing to you emotionally?
Well, it was like a combination of stuff. One, it was that as far as I could tell, like my dream was crushed, and to like insult to injury, you're now going into like an environment. The whole reason I joined the military, and since I was like a young teenager, was because like I wanted war. I wanted to be like door kicker, dude, and I wanted to push myself through, like put me through the ringer, coach, and let me. I believed I could hit it, and I was like I was gunning for it, you know. So when you're in the fleet and you're sailing around out there in the ocean, this is kind of like at the height of the invasion. This is 2004, 5. You got stuff going on over there, and you're like as far away from that environmentally as you can be. You're standing watch with a bunch of guys who are just trying to figure out like how can we get some good
Yep.
chow. You
Yep.
know what I mean? And I'm like, ugh, it was such a different. It was a demoralizing environment. It was so far from what I wanted to do. Now this is one of those like retrospect things again, because I'm like 18, 19 at this time and haven't really done shit. So I was like tremendously unproductive during that time because my attitude was so bad. And in retrospect, I've looked back at that and I'm like, man, I could have done way better if I'd just taken my lick and be like, all right, I'm on ship for a couple of years. Like, I'm going to work on some college classes. I'm going to develop myself. I wasn't really. I was just butthurt. So I didn't use that time well, and it wasn't productive. But what made it weird was they had told me that because of the medical policy, there's no way I could be on dive status, so I'm not coming back to Buds. At some point after I was on the ship for a while, I was going back through my records. And they give you the drop sheet when you get dropped from Buds. On my drop sheet, it said recommended to return after a year and a half. And I was like, huh, maybe they fucked something up. So I ended up, I'd been on the ship for about a year, I guess, at that point. So I started trying to run that back and like, hey, this is what it said. Like, am I good to go? Like, could I put in a package? And at every point, like after that, everything, it seemed like somebody had just fucked something up along the way. And like the medical on the ship was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. We'll put together a package for you. I even contacted Bud's Medical at one point, or I did it like through the ship medical. It wasn't me directly, but anyway, for whatever reason, it was very convoluted. I'm like I just put on E4, so I'm like a real junior petty officer. So my sphere of influence is like minimal. So I'm trying to do everything through this office
with a fucking bucket of grease and shit, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. I'm doing PMS on feed pumps and freaking steam turbines and stuff all day. But so I ended up trying to work on this package again, a dive medical package. And at every step along the way, I kind of did put out initial feelers like, is this kosher? Like, and every indicator I got was like, yeah, that's fine. Somebody probably just fucked something up.
Now, let me ask you this,
so
Joel.
I started the process all over again.
Was your medical record still a firm copy or were you digital? Did you go take all that fucking heat stroke out? Oh, no. Joel.
No.
Oh.
No. Okay. I'm 18 years old.
Dude.
I don't know shit.
Fuck.
Listen. So I'm trying to do things the right way, man. So on my drop sheet, it said recommended to return. So I had everything in my medical record. Now, this is what did happen. I started the process again, and I started the whole Bud's medical package, or the whole package, which is supposed to take, they say, about 6 months, from the fleet. Like all the stuff you got, all the different tests and paperwork and everything you got to put together. It's supposed to take like 6 months. This ended up taking me a year and a half, basically. You still on here, man? I did not take it out. Now, there were lessons learned during this process that I applied later as far as doing shiesty operations, okay? But I was in the learning process at this time. So I had it in there. They did lose my medical record at one point. The ship did. And they had to like basically rebuild it. So the whole process that was supposed to take 6 months for a variety of reasons ended up taking basically a year and a half. At one point I had to rebuild my entire medical record. I'd already done the barometric pressure tests. I'd done the screening. I'd already done a bunch of the tests and I had to like redo them because they lost everything. There were so many phases of this where like the organization fumbled something. I had to get a letter of recommendation from the CO. That went up, and that took months. And I found out, like later on, I ended up having to request captain's mast to get this thing because
let me
it had sat on his desk for 4 months.
Let me explain this to you.
And I was
let me explain this to you, Joel.
Dude,
as an officer on a ship, we sent one dude to Buds. The captain said he'll go to Buds in a year and 2 months when his replacement shows up. He was a SARS swimmer, right? And I remember just like, damn, like, so understand on a ship, they doing all that shit on purpose. They losing your record. They fucking letters sitting on the captain's desk for fucking 18 months. Like all of that is on purpose because they think you're going to a better job than the one you have, which is the craziest shit in the world. Like,
which I learned all this during the process, but it like fueled my bitterness towards the fleet. I was like, damn, these are some petty motherfuckers. Yeah. I was getting so. Yeah, I was supposed to go TDY to Little Creek to basically do some nug time before I headed back over there. I ended up the last phase was basically sending off the package and getting it approved. And I was supposed to go TDY. As soon as I got my approval, I was supposed to go. This had taken so long. They had spaced this out so much that we ended up deploying. Well, we were deploying like a week later, and I was supposed to leave. And they were like, well, shit, so, like, we haven't got word back yet. We still don't know where your letter from the captain is. Like, we're trying to find it. You're going on deployment with us. And I was like, no, dude, I've done like a year and a half on the ship at this point. I was like, get me off of here. Everything's in order, man. Like, you already know. I was like, you guys are just fucking with me. You're going to make me go on deployment like next week? my daughter was due, like she was born a week after we
Okay,
left.
hang on. You
And I
ain't
was
you
like,
you left that
gosh,
out. You got
dude.
married at some point?
I got married.
How
I got
old were you
married
and
during
got
this
married?
time. I was 19.
And who'd you marry?
Childhood, well, like high school sweetheart.
Okay.
We known each other forever.
Okay, as long as you didn't say like random female that you met walking down the street in Norfolk, we good.
It wasn't some Newport News stripper or anything like that.
Okay, I didn't want to say, I didn't want to be disrespectful and say a stripper.
I wasn't quite on that level. No,
okay.
We're old friends. Okay. I'm a real traditional guy. Like, I've known her forever. We had a thing going on kind of beforehand. I never really pursued it, but I ended up getting. She's from Virginia, right around the same area as me.
Okay.
When I got stationed back in Virginia, we ended up dating and got married during that time. Yeah, but it was just like the whole process of that procedure was incredibly frustrating to me. So I ended up having to do that deployment. Did 7 months over there. Came back, and then I went right to my package got approved, which means it went to Buds. They reviewed everything and approved it. Now the problem is I'm out of time. Like, I'm towards the back end of my deployment. I don't have enough stay time, so I have to re-enlist or extend to get Buds orders, right? So I'm like, well, sweet, but all right. I like patiently got this through. Package got approved. I'm going back to Buds, so I'm gonna send it. I extended, signed back up.
Okay.
2 more years.
For how many?
I did 2 more years on the end of my. It was just to get you have to have like 18 months minimum
18 months
to go. So I had to get that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just did like 2 extra years. It was just to kind of get me back out there through the door, whatever. So I go back out to Buds. I class up again with 261. This is the summer of 2006. I want to say, 2006. So 261. There's it's a long story, man. I won't go. The Navy put me through a ringer moving out there, dude, with the freaking travel pay and everything. I won't even bore you with that story.
With the kid and the wife, and
it was insane. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they had me overdrawn like $1,000. They never got the travel money to me. Like they finally got it to me 2 months after I was out there, and I already like spent everything I had, and then they said, "Oh, we overpaid you," and they just like took part of it back out, which like overdrew me. It was a mess. But so I'm like trying to manage all these things. I get back out there.
How old is the kid? How old is the kid at this point?
She's 6 months old.
6 months old. Wife out in San Diego for the first time ever. You ain't stashed her in Virginia while you went to Buds.
Nope.
Okay, all right.
Nope.
Let's get this. Hey, this Big Mac is full of ketchup, baby. Let's get it,
dude. It was quite a ride, man. But I'm like, all right, I'm back in it. So 261 class up. Well, I like show up in whatever the NDOC class up is. We're like getting the class together. So it's the first day of NDOC. We've done our in-processing and everything. And then we were going we had a pool evolution. We were doing something. And I was just jazzed to be back there. Financial stuff and all the logistical stuff's almost not even in my mind. I'm like, fuck it, I'm back here. Like, let's do this. So day one, we're at the pool, and then somebody comes over, or I don't remember. I feel like somebody came out. I don't know why they wouldn't have just like given a call to one of the cadre out there at the pool. But if I remember correctly, I think somebody came out and they were like, "Hey, they need to see Trumbo back over at the compound." So they're like, medical wants to see him. And I was like, oh shit. And I get a little nervous at this point. I'm like, everything's above, like I didn't hide anything. Yeah. Everything's above board. They reviewed everything. Everything was approved. So I'm like, there shouldn't be any problem, but who knows? So I head back over there. I see the doctor, and he basically sits me down. He's got my file on his desk. He's looking through it, and he's like, listen, so it turns out you had a heat stroke. So I don't know how they approved your package, but like you can't train. And I was like, hold on, sir. Like,
did you what? Now wait a minute. Did you go fucking Buck Rogers on his ass about I've been in the engine room 140 fucking degrees for the last 2 years on the NASA? Did you hit him with the facts?
I did eventually. Like I was very respectful, but I was like, respectfully, sir, what the fuck? Like, no. I mean, yeah, I had a heat stroke, but it's in there. It's like the paper right on the top. Like there's they went through this. Everybody's gone through this. My ship went through it. Medical went through it. Little Creek when I was doing that. And then I sent it out here and they approved like everybody's had eyes on this. I wasn't like, what are you talking about? And he's like, this is the policy. If you have, heat injury. And I was like, sir, this is bullshit. Like I re-enlisted for this. You guys are going to do me like, and I was like, there's got to be another way, some kind of waiver. Like, let me apply for a waiver. Let me get a waiver. And he's like, there's no waivers. And that's when I started giving him the business. I was like, there's something. Like, tell me what to do, man. Like, I will do it. Like, there's a way. We're gonna fix this. I told him that. I was like, listen, I never lost consciousness when I had heat stroke. Yeah, it sucked, but like, I worked in the engine room for the last 2 years. I deployed over to the Gulf in the engine room. I've never had a problem with the heat. Like, I'm on it. I'm in good shape, man. Like, what can we do? And I did talk them into. He was like, okay, there's something we can try. And I'm trying to remember all the details on this because it was kind of weird. They set something up. I want to say it was the University of California, San Diego sports medicine, something or other. I don't remember exactly, but it was a university facility that was in town that was set up for like, high end kind of sports medicine type testing or whatever. So they worked something out with them, and it was like a conditional kind of thing. They're like, let's run you through this test and kind of evaluate you, and depending on how you do on this, maybe we can work out some kind of waiver. It was basically like a heat tolerance test.
Okay.
What it consisted of, I had to go out there to this university facility, and basically I had to strip naked. I had to ramrod a freaking anal thermometer up there again, tape it in place. And then they put all the sensors on me, and then I had to walk on a treadmill in like a hot box for 2 hours.
Okay.
And they were just monitoring,
Just walk?
It's like good pace, but it was like 105 degree room or something like that with high humidity. And they're just like, they're putting me through it, and like, you're going to walk at a good pace for 2 hours, and we're just going to monitor how your body responds. So, I was not pleased with this situation. I'm like, the dude hands me the anal thermometer and some lube, and he's like, in the locker room, he's like, squared away, taping in place, we'll be out here. And I'm like, I sat there looking at that thing for a minute, and I was like, fuck. But like, I got to do it, what I got to do. So I'm like, I'm going to send it. I hook everything up, went in the little room and started walking. And this is where.
Were you scared? Were you a little nervous?
I wasn't scared. Okay. No, I gotta tell you, man. Like, I was confident the whole time.
Gotcha.
Like, I can't really explain what.
You just spent fucking 2 years in the engine room, bro. Like,
yeah, it wasn't even because of that though. I just like, I don't know. I had like an intuitive sense of myself. I'm like, I know. I push myself hard in workouts, man. I've done. Like, I don't believe I have this problem. Gotcha. The thing they're concerned about, I was like, I'm not concerned about it. You're concerned about it. I'm not concerned about it. And so I ran in and ran the test. And this is where I did start getting pissed off, because about an hour and some change, maybe an hour, 20 minutes into the test, the guy comes over the intercom or whatever, and he's like, your core temp is getting really high. You're borderline heat stroke. And so you need to calm it down. What'd they say? It was like 102 something, I think.
So you want to know what's crazy? Marathon runners run at 105 degrees.
Okay, right. So this was the issue. He's telling me they had whatever their parameter was. I think like 104, I want to say, if I remember correctly. I don't remember very well, but I want to say it was 104. That was like the threshold. They're like, you cross 104, you're now into heat stroke category. Gotcha. So I think I was at like 103, I want to say. So he's like, listen, you're getting into like dangerous zone here with the heat. And he's basically giving me a warning. He's like, you need to chill it out if you can. Like, try and stay calm. But if it gets much worse, I'm going to have to shut it off. I'm on the other end. I'm like, yeah, I'm hot and sweaty. But, dude, like, I know how I feel when I'm pushing. Yeah. Like, when I'm getting close to red line, I'm walking on a treadmill. I don't have any weight on. I was like, dude, okay, whatever. Like, I'm fine. I'm not even close. I can't even see the red line yet. So he gives me another warning, and then they end up about an hour and a half in, they end up terminating the test. They're like, you're like a 1/10 of a degree off from heat stroke. We have to shut it off. And that's when I started giving it to him. I was like, dude, keep it running. I'm almost there. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm telling you, I'm fine. I'm not even close. I know what it feels like when I'm pushing, and I'm not. Like, and they're like, no, this is your core temp. I can't argue with them. They got the monitors on, so I can't tell them, like, that's not my core temp.
Hey, you know what the first thing I said, Joe?
Here's what I thought.
Joe, the first thing I said was, I'll pull that thermometer out a little bit, and maybe it's just in my ass crack, and I can cool it off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can keep it cool.
Yeah. Well, they had like the skin monitor. They had all kinds of shit on me. That one was like egregious because I had to walk with that thing up my ass. So that was like, that particularly stands out. But they had all kinds of monitors on. But I was getting mad because because I know I'm not even pushing, man. And so I was arguing with him about it. The conclusion, the takeaway from that I got was, so the downstream of that was they ended up saying he is a liability, he can't thermoregulate, and I ended up getting dropped from training. My conclusion from that was, and this ties into when I had the heat stroke, is like, what if I run hot? Like, I think I just run hot because I know what I feel like when I'm pushing, and if I'm at 100 and I'm not even close, like maybe I just run hot. Maybe I can push to like 106, like on the red, kind of,
Yeah.
without much problem. That was kind of the takeaway I had from it. Like, I think I just run hot, and it's like not a problem because that test in particular, and maybe that's why when I was 107 and a half, pretty much, I'm getting like brain damage and shit, and I'm still conscious.
Yeah.
And I'm,
so it's interesting.
I don't know. That's my suspicion, but that's kind of what my takeaway from that test was. Like, I guess I just run hot. 104 is not a problem for me.
It's interesting the way you said it, because 2 years ago they kicked a bunch of dudes out for testosterone, right? It was the dumbest fucking test in the world. Pee in the cup and let's measure you against normal human beings and see if you're out of the norm, right?
Right.
But then they got a study
that's a great test for SF dudes.
Yeah, they got a study that says your average SF dude has 800 testosterone, which is like 200 higher than anybody in the country. Like, it was the dumbest shit in the world. I had a young man caught up in it, and his testosterone was crushing it. And I sent them a study. I'm like, here's a study that says under stress, you can get this high of testosterone.
Yeah, man. Like, you're actually kind of selecting for that.
Absolutely, right? Like,
that's what you want on your team.
Man, dude. So, okay. So you're fucking crushed. You go through the whole fucking thing again. You go back to XDiv?
Okay, yeah. So I got med dropped a second time for the same thing, for heat stroke. And at that point, I'd like exhausted I've written to everybody and tried to get any kind of waiver. That was kind of my last shot, was that test. Yep. And they're like, nope. So I got med dropped again for the heat injury. And boy, let me tell you how pissed I am right now, because I didn't even get to do shit. Like, it was basically their admin fuck up on the front end for whatever, and now I'm paying for it again. So I'm back to XDiv and everything else. Now I'm thinking like, all right, well, shit, let me just wrap this up, because I got like 2 months left on my contract or whatever, because I had done that extension to go to Buds. Navy tells me, no, you gotta serve that 2 years. And I was like, well, no, that was a conditional extension. That was like 4 Buds. And they're like, but we sent you to Buds. And I was like, no, dude, like, yeah, you sent me out there and then like dropped me, and they're like, yep, we sent you to Buds. And so I didn't do any of the training, but they had like checked the box, like, yep, we sent you 2 more years. And so then they made me serve that extension, because on paper they had sent me. And only to drop me the first day because of an admin overlook or whatever. I get XDiv and then orders to my second ship, and I get a second round in the fleet. This time I went to CVN 75, USS Truman. And so I did 2. Well,
where was the Truman?
I was supposed to do. Truman was back in Norfolk again. Ugh. They didn't have anything on the West Coast, so now I'm going back to Norfolk. Same day. I'm like right down the pier from the Nassau now on my second ship. So I ended up doing, I was supposed to do 2 more years. I had 2 more years that they made me do. And I was basically just like an A-gang work center supervisor on the Truman.
You E5 now?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I put on E5 there. So I ended up only serving a year and a half of that 2 years. But I did a deployment on the Truman as well. So I did 2 fleet deployments in the Navy. It was 2 different ships. And one surge down to Haiti in 2005. That was only like 2 months. But yeah, so this is where I get into when I tell you I had a bad attitude about the Navy the first time, my attitude the second time when I'm on my second ship was exponentially worse. Although I had also like matured a bit too. So I was like more in the game, and A division doesn't suck nearly as bad as like main engineering. So the job wasn't nearly as bad. I was like, professionally, I was doing, I had probably like a better rapport. I was, like a little more on point with kind of my duties. But internally, I was like, fuck the Navy, man. Like, they just get me every turn they can get me. They get me, and they're making me, gosh, dude.
This is fucking gold right now, because you're telling it like I tell people it happens. Gold, because I tell people this is how the Navy works, like to screw people, right? And they're trying to screw you at every turn to make sure that they get as much as they can out of you, whether you're complicit or not.
Yeah, you're...
The reason I tell everybody to go in the Army, because like in your case, let's say you went to Ranger selection first, and then you didn't make it, you'd go to infantry division, 101st
Right.
Airborne Infantry. So
Right.
now you're at war. You're cutting it up. Then
Right.
you would go back. You'd be doing the same fucking job, just a little bit faster,
Yeah.
right?
100%. And you're going to get that experience and that maturity that is going to be like directly job applicable if you go back to RASP or SFAS or something like that. And yeah, you have like team leader time in a squad or something like that, or you deployed once or twice with a line unit, and you just don't, you can't get that in the Navy. And in my case, like I even tried at one point, I was trying to figure out like, can I freaking put in like an EOD package? Fucking anything. And because of the dive, it was the dive status thing. You're like, nope, any job that's going to even get you close to, to the shit is kind of off the table. So this is where I get into the my ESWAS story because of the bad attitude. Right now I put on E5 and they're like, hey, why don't you get your surface? I want nothing to do with the fleet, the surface Navy, organizational Navy. I'm serving my time. And they're like, yeah, you should get your surface warfare pin though. That's kind of expected and everything. And I was like, nope. Like I'm not doing shit on this boat except like exactly what I'm required to do by I wanted nothing to do with it. And so I fought him on that and like dragged my feet for the longest. And my engineering officer, he was really cool. I was buddies with him, and he gave me a hard time about it. But he kept, the whole time I was there, he was trying to push me on that. Like, how come you ain't got your pin yet? I was like, because I got a year left. And like, nope, So at one point, at this time, this is 2008. I have, so I was supposed to do 2 years. At the time, the Navy was overmanned and the Army was undermanned. So they had the blue to green program where you could go straight from one to the other. They had a 6-month early out, basically, where they would chop 6 months off your Navy contract if you're doing blue to green. And so I put in for that. I was like, let me do this. Well, first, I gotta say, I started talking to the Army about it to even see if this was feasible. So I started talking to the Army recruiters, and I was like, listen, I have this medical history. I had a heat stroke in 2003, and so I can't do this. What I want to do in the Army is special operations. Like, is the heat stroke going to be a problem here? Like, no shit. And the Army's like, no, that's fine. You can have as many heat strokes as you want. They had none of the medical stuff bullshit the Navy had, and which was fun on the ground. When I was there, I saw dudes having stroking out continuously, like in RIP and everything. Like it was regular. So it just, the difference in organizational dynamic was amusing to me even at the time. That it was even like funny to the Army recruiter. He's like, no, you're gonna have heat strokes, dude. Yeah, we're doing rucking, in the desert, not a problem. So I was like, all right, cool. So I decided to go over to the Army, and I put in for the 6-month early out. And my engineering officer, I'd like drag feet the whole time, and I was good friends with him, like I said, but he got me at that. He had like a little sparkle in his eyes, he's like, oh, Trumbo, you want 6 months early out? He's like, I can do that for you, brother. I can sign that off, but you have to get that ESWAS pin. And I was like, oh, really, you motherfucker? You're going to hold me hostage and make me get this? And he's like, you get the pin? I'll sign it over. You'll be out of the Navy. I was like, all right, watch this. So I went and did every watch, there's a certain amount of time it's supposed to take. I went to everybody and did every watch station and freaking thing. Like I don't think I slept for like a week. I was just banging it out. And I went to my oral board, and like 2 weeks later, I was going up for the oral board and got my ESWAS pin. I was like, all right, sign it, give me the paper. So he signed off on it, and I ended up getting 6-month early out to switch over.
All right, so you're fucking on the ship. They make you get. I'm gonna hit you with this one. I know all my listeners have heard this story. I got my officer the deck in port qual, which you have to do for ESWAS, correct? I got it in 36 hours. I stood every fucking watch around the clock, and I came back the next day and stood the one watch I missed, and then I took my board that morning and passed. So like I'm with you on fuck their timelines. I'm fucking steaming Willie Beam.
Yep. Yeah. Like that's the box I gotta check. Roger that. I'm gonna freaking send it and get it out of the way. So he did hold up his end. I did grudgingly have to get my ESWAS pin, and then he signed it out. Now I talked to the Army already, and I had a buddy who I had met in the Navy on a different ship, but like real similar background to me, homeschool guy. He had gone to Buds, I think a class ahead of me the second time. I think he was in 260, and he got dropped, med dropped, and he was kind of in the same boat where he was thinking of switching. We were in discussion for a while. We both were switching, doing blue to green, going to the Army, and he was getting out like 6 months before me and hopping over. And he wanted to go Green Beret. And at the time, I didn't know exactly what I was trying to do in the Army, but I was doing research on it. I had done enough research to realize like I was really trying to go for direct action, and I had figured out enough. I was like, I don't think Green Beret is exactly quite what I'm going for. So I had it. I didn't really quite understand the Ranger battalion dynamic 100%, but I had figured out enough to realize like, I think that's where I want to go. I want to do Ranger bat. So we both got out of the Navy. He got out a little before me and ended up going 18 series and went to selection and did the whole pipeline. I got out 6 months behind him to the Army.